Ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan and plant-based practice? You're in the right place. I'm Michelle Olander. This is Vedge Your Best. Episode 181, Plant-Powered Planning, Simplifying Meal Prep for Every Goal, with Kathy A. Davis. Hello, my Vedge Your Besties. Welcome back. Welcome back. If Veganuary is in your rear view mirror, or maybe your commitment to eating and preparing more whole foods has gone a little stale this February, today's episode is for you. And like all good ideas, all the best episodes, I think you're going to hear something in today's interview that you can use somewhere in your life this week. Kathy Davis is a plant-based lifestyle and mindset coach. She's a meal planning expert, the CEO of VegInspired.com, and the author of 3 cookbooks. And Kathy is the first guest to make a repeat visit to Vedge Your Best. Kathy Davis is a kindred spirit. Like me, she's on a mission to educate, inspire, and empower others about plant-based eating and living. Kathy operates on 2 prime directives, I guess you'd say: eat more plants and intention over perfection while you get there. Who could be a more perfect repeat guest? Vegan for over 9 years now, Kathy talks about her initial disbelief and reluctance to making that commitment, and how over the past 4 years she shifted her daily habits to really up-level her vegan choices and follow a more whole foods, plant-based lifestyle. And the amazing results: much more energy, a 50-pound weight loss and maintenance of that, and increasingly learning how to use one particular tool, meal planning. But I'm telling you, this is probably not what most of us think about when we think meal planning. Even you fellow ADHD, overwhelmed, or spontaneous Vedge Your Besties who fly by the seat of your plants, I think you're going to really have fun with this one. So listen up. The links, of course, will be in the show notes, and I'll see you on the other side of the interview. Kathy A. Davis, welcome back to Vedge Your Best.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm going to put the link back to our previous discussion. I think it was episode 55 or something like that. And when I talked to you last time, you were in the foothills, I think, of the Smoky Mountains in your RV. Are you still in an RV?
We're still in an RV.
And where are you?
We are in Tombstone, Arizona, which is southeastern Arizona, near the OK Corral.
Oh, wow.
As in Wyatt Earp, like the Tombstone movie. And so I always tell people, like, so for the last month, we've been watching Tombstone, or getting ourselves ready to be here and explore this cute little town with so much history. And we watched the movie Tombstone with Val Kilmer and, oh gosh, his name just slipped my mind. But I'm a Hallmark movie watcher, and so that was extremely violent compared to my happy little Hallmark movies. So if you're listening to this and you're like, wait, Tombstone, I remember that being all about Wyatt Earp shooting up people. That's what it was about.
So how many miles do you, I mean, it's been a couple years since we talked. So how many miles has that RV taken you basically per year, roughly? Do you have an estimate?
I can tell you that our truck has about 60,000 miles. So it's about 10 to 12,000 miles that we travel a year. Now the RV doesn't go everywhere. We'll park somewhere for a month and use that as a hub to explore different parts of the country. But we've been to 33 states, 23 national parks or national park units. And yeah, it's been an incredible adventure.
And you sound great. So we were warned that maybe you might have a little bit of a issue with internet coverage, but so far so good. So we're just gonna press forward with that. I'm so impressed how far you've gotten in our country to look around and actually experience it and prove to everybody that you don't need to be in a big city in the Northeast in a glamorous kitchen to cook plant-based.
100%. Somebody asked me, is it really hard to eat plant-based on the road? And so 5 years ago was when we hit the road full time, and we were vegan, but we were vegan, eating vegan processed foods the first year, mostly vegan processed foods, lots of vegan restaurants. We ate our whole foods, we ate our potatoes and veggies and all that too, but we relied a lot on the vegan analog and alternative products. And when we pivoted to more whole food plant-based eating about 4 years ago, it actually became easier because all of the grocery stores have oatmeal and dried and canned beans and canned tomatoes and whole grain pastas and vegetables and fruits and frozen vegetables and fruits, nuts and seeds. It became easier because we weren't relying on having to have this brand of vegan cheese or this brand of vegan mayo or this dressing, because we were making everything from whole foods. And it's so interesting because now when I think about those must-haves, it's making sure that I have enough nutritional yeast until I get to the next big city where I can get nutritional yeast, or my favorite tahini, or, so I really kind of plan ahead and look at that when I'm planning my travel, when I'm doing my travel plans and looking at my menu and looking at my groceries and looking at what I stock in my pantry.
So when we spoke last time, we talked mostly about your 3 books, which are still important and are still fabulous. They bust the ideas of plant-based vegan cooking being too expensive, too hard, or too time-consuming. And so you can go back and listen all to those if you haven't heard that interview. But now we're talking much more about you going forward with, among other things, really your meal planning. And today on my Instagram, I'm not sure when this is going to air, but on my Instagram today, I shared a little video clip of you saying, "Why should I meal plan?" Tell us, why should you meal plan?
Well, it comes down to look at all the other places in your life that you plan. You get in your car, you plug in the address to the GPS of a place you're not going. So if you relate that analogy to meal planning, if you don't know what you're doing for dinner, you don't have a direction. So when you get there, you might detour yourself and accidentally take out. Or if you're trying to eat whole food plant-based, but your family's still eating vegan, you might find yourself picking the vegan chicken nuggets off the tray, right? Like the plan allows you to stay on course to the goals. Now, I teach meal planning a little bit differently than other people. And so it really does hit this, like, you put in the address and the GPS. You might be the type of person who calculates what time you need to get out of bed so that you can get everybody ready for the day out the door. You might be the kind of person who, has your Pinterest board full of all of the amazing experiences you want to have on a vacation, right? You've done the planning everywhere else. Why not with food that you encounter 3 or 4 or 5 times a day?
So that's very important for us to realize that we are doing planning all the time. We're not actually looking for something. It's not a new thing we're adding to our lives. You're trying to actually make this a little bit simpler. I know the world when I was a very young woman had fewer options for impulsive food choices. There weren't so many fast food places. There were just not so many places to even go to the grocery store. So I think sometimes we've gotten a little bit used to punting the decision till the point where we're all hangry and frantic, and then we can't think straight. So where would we begin with a meal plan? Like, what if someone's just listening going, I think I'll listen to something else because meal planning sounds awful to me. Sell us on it a little bit, Kathy.
Oh, I love this question. I love this question, Michelle. So what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you are coming into your kitchen, and it's that time of the day when everybody's there and they're ravenous and they're like, hands are in the snack baskets, hands are in the boxes of cookies or whatever you have. They're probably not digging at the beautiful fruit bowl on there, because at that point they're just ravenous and they don't even want to take the time to peel an orange. They just want to rip open a bag of whatever vegan snacks you have. And you have made a dozen decisions in the last half an hour just getting yourself home and into that point in the kitchen. And you walk over to your refrigerator, and instead of opening it and saying, what am I going to cook for dinner? You look at your meal plan that you created and you see that your favorite taco recipe is on the plan. And so you easily grab the 5 ingredients that go in it. You chop them up quick while giving your, whoever's watching, maybe it's your kid, they get, they get a couple pieces of broccoli for the veggies that you're going to put on it. It's if the dog wants a piece of the sweet potato, whatever it is, right? You open your can of black beans, you put everything out on the sheet pan, you throw it in, you help with a little bit of homework, you chop up some avocado, some cabbage, and in 25 minutes, you're tossing the roasted veggies, or however long it takes, depending on the size of your veggie, with the seasonings and spices and maybe some lime and liquid aminos or soy sauce to give it that taco-y flavor. You've got your tortillas all heated up and ready to go, or right out of the package, or however you prepare your tortillas. You load them on the plates, everybody fills them up, and a happy family eats dinner. That's what we do. And I don't teach meal planning to just write tacos on the top of the list and forget about it and then walk away and then be like, oh, tacos. What did I mean when I wrote tacos? I want you to love it. I want you to be so excited to make that meal that it wouldn't matter if the dog was getting sick on the carpet, your mom was on the phone, none of those things would matter. You would still want to do it. And that's the difference between how I meal plan and having you buy a meal plan from somebody else.
Wow, that sounds like witchery, Kathy.
It's almost life-changing. I mean, I can remember, Michelle, coming home from work. I wasn't even home from work when my husband and I lived in a house. I've been meal planning for longer than we've lived in the RV, like 7 or 8 years. And my husband would text me, and it would be around between 4 and 4:30. What's for dinner? And I would just feel it felt like it was my organs. I know more now, but like every bit of energy in my body just left. Like, it's such a loaded, heavy question. And we would go back and forth. I don't know. We have this, and this. I don't know. I don't really want to cook that. Oh, that's going to take a half an hour to cook. Like, I don't want to deal with that. And then we would end with, because we were both getting in the car to commute home, we'll talk about it when we get home. So then we drive home, both probably thinking about what's for dinner. We get home and we have another hour-long conversation. Like, I just didn't want to be part of that. And at 90% of the time, I would tell you that it ended with us being like, you know what? I don't want to cook. It's already 7:00. Let's just go to the local restaurant with vegan options. And I mean, before we started meal planning, I bet we ate out 3 or 4 times a night. I mean, it's so common, but it doesn't have to be that way, especially if you're sitting here thinking, I want to cook at home more because I want to be in control of the ingredients I'm putting in my food.
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if anybody who just heard you didn't relate to that. What's for dinner? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know if I feel. I mean, I think we all have been there. And so, there's a training, like a physical training phrase I hear all the time, which is, you don't worry about raising the ceiling, worry about raising the floor. So you want to get some of these habits underneath you that are supportive before you really work. You don't have to completely get super ambitious about learning all kinds of new skills if you can bring up the floor. And it really sounds to me like this is exactly what you're helping us do. Come up with a couple decisions, some preparation, and simplify. We're not learning all kinds of new skills.
Absolutely. And there's a couple of nuances that I really focus on with meal planning. One, what does your schedule allow you to do? I am not a meal prepper. because I value my weekends. I do not want to spend 4 to 6 hours on a Sunday when I'm parked outside of a national park to meal prep. I would rather take a look at my calendar. I know that I hold coaching calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I either delegate my husband to cook on those days, or I plan in leftovers. So Monday I cook something, Tuesday I eat it for leftovers. Wednesday I cook something, Thursday I eat it for leftovers. And then maybe Friday we plan to go out, right? So it allows you not only to pick meals that excite you, like I talked about in the first example, but the second example, it really has you look at your calendar and say, oh, I have noticed that my pattern is to come home late on Wednesdays and we end up eating out. How can I mitigate that by maybe putting in a slow cooker meal or making a casserole on what I'm suggesting is preparing foods ahead of time, right? Like making a casserole on a Sunday, one thing that I can throw in the oven, or my husband can throw in the oven, or my wife or spouse or whatever can throw in the oven when they get home, so that when I get home from this late staff meeting, there's something that everybody wants to eat.
And that's so important, is that if you don't have a decision, if you don't have any kind of plan, you can't, it's so much harder to ask for help. It's almost impossible if you have to walk somebody through it, or this way, even a young person in the family, a teenager, can probably be a big help as long as they don't have to make tons of decisions for you. And that you don't have to explain a lot. So I saw that on I think it was on Instagram too, that you were talking about how it helps with delegating. And I think many of us need to learn how to delegate a little bit. And this is a great way to practice that.
Well, like I said, I've been meal planning for 7 years. So when I write a recipe down, or when I write a meal down, it might not be one from a recipe. I mean, we talked about it. I have 3 cookbooks. That's over 300 recipes, plus everything that's on vegginspired.com. Like, I could write down veggie tacos and I know what it is. And it's likely my husband knows what it is too, because we've been cooking together, alongside each other for so long. But if you're like, my husband, my partner, spouse, whomever isn't going to know what that means, well, sweet potato and vegetable tacos, page 75 from this cookbook, is very helpful. And maybe you know what it is and you don't need the recipe, but when you delegate it to somebody else, they do. And the other piece I really want to highlight too is you can also plan to buy ingredients that don't require prep. So these veggie tacos that I keep talking about, they are in my budget-friendly cookbook. They are one of the meals that we eat almost every single week. You can buy pre-cut broccoli and cauliflower from the produce section of the grocery store. You can buy sweet potato cubes from the produce section. You can buy guacamole already made. Like, it can be a meal that comes together very, very quickly on a budget without having a lot of prep work in the moment. But if you don't know that's what you're going to have, and you saw that the broccoli looked good at the grocery store, and you have a head of cauliflower from last week, and now you're like, oh my gosh, I have to prep this. I don't have time to prep it. Let's just go out. Let me just throw these convenience foods in the oven. We won't eat whole foods again this week. And I mean, that happens to all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a way of helping us make those decisions that make more decisions, that kind of streamline the week forward rather than give you more decisions to make. It kind of just takes care of that. So the tacos are obviously sound like something almost everybody's thinking they could probably visualize what's involved with that. What's another kind of a meal that maybe they might not be able to visualize what that looks like? Can you give away a couple secrets?
Absolutely. I love it. So I'm gonna stick with dinners, because that's where I find most people have struggles. Most of us can figure out a vegan breakfast. Most of us can figure out a vegan lunch, even if it's leftovers from the night before. But when you're thinking about your meal plan meals, you want them to excite you. So there's a recipe, and my husband asks for it every week. It's not my favorite, but I would classify it in my little system as a complex meal. And it is these veggie balls that you'd eat with pasta, something like that, that are made with pecans and tofu and other things. It's from the China Study Cookbook. It's not one of my cookbook recipes. But you buzz everything up, you roll them into balls, and you bake them, and then you serve them alongside your whole grains or your pasta, or maybe you eat it in a hoagie, or whatever you do with what you would have done with meatballs. He loves them, but they require a cup of cooked rice or a cup of cooked whole grains. So what I do is when I'm looking at the meal plan, I see, okay, we're going to do like a grain bowl or a Buddha bowl. And so it has our cooked grains, it has some raw veggies, some cooked veggies, whether they're roasted. And I'm giving you guys a ton of ideas. The raw veggies or the roasted veggies, some type of dressing. I like tahini dressings. I'm a huge fan of tahini and rice vinegar kind of mixed together with a little water and maybe some dill or some other, your favorite dried herb or fresh herb. Make a nice salad or a nice Buddha bowl or grain bowl dressing. You've got your beans or your lentils in there. And so you have these like random leftovers. So I will say, oh, well, if we're having these grain bowls, then the next day that I'm delegating him to cook, he can make these pecan balls that he loves with the leftovers from the grains, because that's that's a requirement. That way I'm not thinking to myself in the middle of the day, oh, he's making pecan balls and I need to cook rice, right? Like I use the plan to kind of leverage what I've cooked earlier in the week. And so I can see that because I can zoom out and see a bigger picture of the week.
So there's no way you can really give away your secrets, because we have so many, all of us have so many recipe books in our houses. I'm sure we have access to thousands of recipes online, and we're still not cooking at home. Right, Kathy? We're still not, because I think what you're offering is actually the thing that's kind of missing for most of us, is that kind of zoom out. Maybe not 32,000 feet, but maybe 11,000 feet, somewhere in there, to make that plan. But that, I think most of us would love some help with that.
So I want to point this out, Michelle, because what you just said brought to me one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make, and actually one of the mistakes I used to make. In fact, I think I even have an old YouTube video of me doing this. So it's really interesting that you brought this up. So most people think, oh my gosh, a meal plan. And this is what they do. They clear off their kitchen counter or their table. They go get every vegan cookbook that they've ever wanted to cook from. And they sit down with this template. And I'm going to give you all a free template, so keep listening. They sit down with this template and they reach over and they grab that first book that they're so excited to. They open the page and they get sucked into breakfast. Because isn't that every book starts with breakfast? And so here you are, you've sat down to plan your dinners, but you're looking at breakfast. And then you're looking at, and you're like, ooh, you know what? That smoothie does look really good, but I don't have time for smoothies in the morning. So I'm just going to eat my oatmeal. But you still cook. I'm certainly not going to make tofu scramble when I have to be to work and I barely have 2 minutes to do what I need to do. I'm not going to add a 15-minute tofu scramble, right? And you're making these excuses in your head. And then you get to the lunch, like the lunch section or the wraps or the soups, and you're like, these all sound really good, but it's not soup season, right? So now you're 45 minutes in and you've looked at half of one book, and then you get disrupted and maybe your phone goes off or a notification on Instagram, and then we get in a scroll hole and we're like, oh yeah, I really like that recipe. I should do that one day. And here we are, totally distracted. The first thing I teach my clients to do is create a list, whether it's on the back of your meal plan template, in a notebook, in the notes app on your phone, of those recipes that are your go-to, that if the world's like, if everything paused for just a minute, you would actually get up from the couch and go to the kitchen and see if you had those ingredients, because you want to make that right now because it looks so good. Those are the recipes that you want to have on what I call your inspiration or ideas list. And then that list, that drives your meal plan. Or, and most of us in the vegan world have heard of some of the plant-based doctors with their frameworks. Maybe you're following something like the starch solution, high starch diet. Don't open the cookbook to breakfast. Go to the index and look for potato recipes, rice recipes. Like, start with the end in mind. I can meal plan in under 30 minutes because I don't look at the cookbooks at the same time that I build my meal plan. I look at the cookbooks when I'm drinking a cup of coffee, when I'm sitting by a campfire, when I'm sitting on the couch and my husband's watching either a YouTube or some football, right? Like, I look at the cookbooks when I'm not meal planning so that I could build the inspiration list for that very dedicated, uninterrupted, hopefully, time to meal plan.
I think you just saved everybody like 3 hours of time this week.
But that's the biggest mistake.
Yeah, I think that's so important because we then suddenly we have some feeling, whether it's overwhelm or an inability to decide, or, oh my God, I like that kind of food, but my spouse or my kids or somebody else will never. So good. We start with the things we already are pretty positive about, pretty comfortable with, and begin there. I think that you've just paid for your episode right there. Everybody listening, you just got that.
I've given you the secret. Now you're like, what do I need Kathy for? Oh, I've got more secrets like
There's
that.
more. Oh, that's so great. That is so great. Okay. Well, all right. So now how do we start to find out? So what's our first step? We go onto which website? Because I know you're transitioning a little bit with your meal plan. So is it still veg inspired?
Yes. So you can find everything out on vegginspired.com, veg inspired. And I'm sure that'll be in the show notes because you do great
Oh,
show
of course it will. Yep.
Yep. And if you click work with me, it drops you down to the middle of the page where you can learn about our meal plan accountability club.
So tell us all about that.
So the meal plan accountability club is a weekly meeting. I mean, it's on Zoom, right? It's digital. We're here in the Zoom world, and we get together with our meal plans, with that inspiration list, with our calendar, because those are the 3 things that I ask you to bring, and we plan. Now, I start every meeting with some kind of tip, some kind of 15 to 20 minute perspective. So some topics I've done is, wait, how do I meal plan when I'm on a budget? How do I meal plan when I'm on vacation? How do I meal plan when I just want to plan dinners? How do I meal plan when I want to reduce with food waste? How do I meal plan when I don't want a meal plan, right? Like, we really touch on all of those experiences that you all have. And some of you sitting there are going to be like, how do I meal plan when my family and I don't eat the same way? How do I meal plan when my in-laws come into town? Like, you want to know all these things. How do I meal plan during the holidays? How do I meal plan if I want to eat whole food plant-based? Like, all of those things. And it's so important that we understand that meal planning, the veg inspired way, follows a 4 kind of step framework. And this is what we teach in the Meal Plan Accountability Club. It starts with these inspirations. Like, it doesn't matter how you put it on paper or put it digitally or put it on a big whiteboard, but it starts with you having some order around the ideas that you have. Some people poll their family. Like, what do you want to eat this week? Oh, you want this, this, and this? Some people are like, they don't get a choice. They eat what I want to cook, right? Like, it just depends on the dynamics of your family. My family, my house, my husband gets a say because he does part of the cooking. But if I work with a lot of brands, and so I do a lot of recipe testing, and I'm still doing new recipes and things like that. So sometimes I'm just over in my little world putting those ideas down on the paper. So I start every meal plan accountability session. They're about 60 minutes with this perspective. And then I offer hot seats. So let's say you're like, listen, I'm going on vacation next week. I'm traveling with all non-plant-based people. I know they're going to want to eat out. How would you plan ahead? Now, the other side of my background is in coaching people to eat whole food, plant-based, or making the transition to veganism. And so I have different nuances and expertise in dealing with travel, in dealing with social situations. Like I've done all of this. And so, we can tweak a plan and say, okay, we're going to eat. The other part of the meal planning that I haven't talked about is that we always have you write your goal at the top of your paper, because your goal drives your decisions for the week. So if your goal is, I want to eat healthier vegan options at home, and you look at your meal plan from a bird's eye view and you've got 6 meals planned at a restaurant, you ask yourself, am I meeting my goals? Right? Like we're all in right now we're recording this at the end of January. So we're all in that resolution mindset, right? So if you said, I want to eat healthier in January, and you look at your meal plans and you're like, wait, I'm still eating the same stuff I was eating in November, then that's where we take a look. And so somebody might bring that as a question. Another popular hot seat is, can you help me veganize this recipe? My in-laws chili recipe, or my mom's apple pie. And so I do a lot of that as well. And then the last third or so of the call is where we meal plan. I basically guide them through my meal plan checklist. Start here, do this, put these meals on there, drop anything in the chat, ask questions. We talk about different themes, like, can you drop us, does anybody have a good chili recipe? And so I might be over there dropping in a couple of recipes from my cookbooks, or dropping in the page numbers. I also have created like a community portal, I suppose, with links to all of the recipes that we share. So if somebody says, oh, so-and-so mentioned the Instant Pot curry the other day, do you know where that is? Well, we know where it is because I've already uploaded it to the links. And so it provides this accountability, but also this community around other people who want to become meal planners, because they understand that it creates order. It creates ease in their life. It's not another thing to do. It's literally the thing that most of us push off because we don't see how important it is.
And so what I think I just heard you say is, sometimes your meal plan is going out or getting takeout. So it's becoming intentional and looking at the entire week or your entire day, whatever your time frame is that you're working with. It's to be intentional and not be making these catch-up types of decisions at the last minute, which typically are not usually our best choices nutritionally, or budget wise or time wise.
Yeah, and a lot of the clients that I work with in my group program that want to become whole food, or mostly whole food plant-based eaters, they have different goals than somebody who might be like, I just want to feed my family vegan food. So the meal plan allows you to kind of be in that community and hear people say like, oh, well, I've been making these sweet potato tacos for years and my family loves them. And they could be like, oh, my kids love sweet potatoes. That works, right? Like it allows you to say, for somebody else that's been doing this for a while, to say, here's a resource. Try this, right? We might have talked about this on the first episode. I was pretty resistant to plant-based eating. The only way that, it was my husband's idea and he did most of the cooking. And that was almost 10 years ago, which is insane. He got me to eat this way because he fed me familiar foods. So if you're just finding this podcast because you're brand new to plant-based eating, start with meal planning familiar foods. Your family loves potatoes. Try taking potatoes, cut up, simmering them in taco spice and using those as a taco filling. Your family loves like chickpeas, make chickpea nuggets, right? Like look for some of these ideas that are very familiar. And my nephew loves chickpeas, but I don't know that I know any other child that does. He eats them right out of the can. It's so cute. But like familiar foods, it allows you to look at your meal plan and say, okay, zoomed out, look, we've got all these familiar foods. My kids are going to have something to eat this.
And with that group environment, with that community, there's a little bit of customization there too. If you think, I always think, my grandmother, I'm Polish on one side. My grandmother had some of these Polish cakes, which I I don't really need a lot of in my life, but once in a while, I would love to know. I'm sure someone somewhere has figured out how to veganize one or two of them. And so that's like on my long list of like things to kind of look into. But in a group, there's probably other people thinking, oh, lemon muffins, lemon poppy seed muffins, or something that you can say, has anybody tried that with the different kinds of vegan baking techniques? Because you get that
Absolutely.
sense of connection and accessibility to a new recipe.
Absolutely. And some of our members have been vegan for a long time. And I have a couple members come to mind, like they're always sharing ideas or things that they do. And the other part is we spend the beginning part celebrating our wins. And it's so fun to see somebody say, and it's winter right now, but I went out to my garden and I harvested all these things. And somebody else is like, I picked all my herbs today. Like it's just so fun to hear those types of it's a community, and while it's rooted in creating this order through meal planning, it's also this camaraderie around plant-based eating and eating more plants. And what are your ideas with this? And it's led to book clubs and different things that as you connect with other people, you find like-minded people.
So this particular group is called the Meal Plan Accountability Club. Have I got that
Yes.
right? Because that just sounds, I think sometimes how sad it is that so many of us end up dreading something that is such a privilege, that we have people to eat with and we have enough money and access to clean, healthy food. The privilege that we do have, so many of us just find it so tiresome or worse. So it would be so great that we could maybe appreciate it, enjoy it just a little bit more. And it's all about the perspective, isn't it?
It really is. And I want to bring us back to that story that I told in the beginning. There is something so empowering, so energizing when you actually are excited to cook the meal that you put on your meal plan. I mean, it's a game changer. Even if you had a long day at work, a crappy day at work, a frustrating day, or an exciting day, like whatever it is, when you get into the kitchen, even if you don't love to cook, you're excited to eat that meal because you picked it. It was the meal you wanted. It was the meal that you chose. And we only, we cook 3 or 4 times a day, or we eat 3 or 4 times a day, but we only really spend time preparing that often at dinner, especially if we work outside the home. And so, if we can change our perspective into one where meal planning gives us back time and energy and enthusiasm and excitement and joy, instead of this drudgery of having to do something, it really changes things. And people often ask me why I don't make meal plans for people, because I know how powerful having a meal plan is. Because what excites me might not excite you. And so you can buy all the meal plans in the world, but if they have chickpeas and you hate chickpeas, it's not going to excite you. If they have eggplant and you don't like eggplant, it's not going to excite you. If it's a one of those meal plans where you can modify everything to make it gluten-free by doing this, but it's not actually gluten-free and you want to eat gluten-free, it's just one more step. But if you're like, wait, I have 5 or 7 go-to meals that I make every week, what if I did just put them in a plan? What if I did say, okay, on Tuesdays, I'm going to make this recipe, and this is why, because I get out of work early that day, so I have more time to make the complex pecan balls, and my family loves pasta, and they like the Gardein, so I'll feed them the Gardein, and I'll make the whole food ones, right? Like, you start to see how it works with your life.
And with the community, I'm guessing also, if you have a couple of these the recipes that you basically like, or your family basically likes, but you're thinking, but you know what, this part of it's awfully complicated or too complicated for a weekday night, or it has this vegetable in it that 2/3 of the family don't particularly like. You have access to kind of pick the brains of these other people who may have some really great insight, not least of all yourself, to
Right.
help like customize some of them. So those recipes that you do have maybe can be made a little more streamlined or a little more accessible for the family and the kitchen and the lifestyle you do have.
Absolutely. And people are always like, oh, I tried this. You can buy, did you know you can buy, well, like I said earlier, the cut up broccoli and cauliflower. Go look in this section of your store. Oh, you don't want to prep the kale. Did you know that you could use spinach in place of kale? Just reduce the cooking time by 2 minutes. Like they pop in with different ideas. Oh, I did a training on food dyes a few weeks ago, and somebody said, I just make my own pickles. Then I don't have to worry about yellow 5. And I add turmeric. And so then they were going back with different ways that they could pickle. And somebody was talking about pickling their own cucumbers. And somebody was talking about pickling cabbage. And I threw in that we pickle turnips. And like, you start to hear these different ideas and you're like, oh, I really like that. Like, I like that idea. And I'm not, and listen, if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't have time to pickle, I don't even have time to pick a pickle off the grocery store shelf. We're not encouraging you to do things outside of your natural scope, but it's more about an awareness. It's more about there are other options. There are other ways to plan and to modify a recipe that don't require you to, throw the whole cookbook out. And I talk about this a lot because my husband and I were vegan first. We were vegan for 5 years before we went to a mostly whole food, plant-based way of eating, which meant, and again, we live in an RV, so we had downsized a lot of our cookbooks, but it was further downsizing unless we could figure out how to modify a vegan cookbook to be more whole food, plant-based. Well, we've done that. So while I might not say this vegan cookbook, whatever it is great for a beginner whole food, plant-based eater, I can say in my meal plan accountability club, hey, I really love this recipe. The author of this cookbook has it on her website. These are the 3 things I do to make it whole food, plant-based. Boom. It's done. It's easy. Somebody else in the group might be like, oh, don't use almond butter, use tahini, or don't use tahini, use aquafaba, right? Like oh, I've made that too, right? They're pinging ideas off of each other. And so it really does provide this great, like almost a mastermind or a brainstorming session with all of these people that have that common interest.
And for the people who just want to figure out how to do it as quickly, as simply, and as deliciously as possible, they can stay in their lane too. So is what you're saying also. We don't, if you can just stay focused on what actually makes that meal plan valuable for you.
To you. I love that. Absolutely. And the other thing I want to highlight with the Meal Plan Accountability Club is as soon as you enroll, you get instant access to all of the library of resources. So we meet every Thursday, but if you decide you want and you're in and it's a Monday and you want to listen to some episodes or some sessions, you can go back and listen to me talk about meal planning on a budget, or going through the meal, like going through the end session where I guide people through the meal plan template. And you could actually have a couple days head start before you attend a live call. So it's like you can attend it live or you can listen to the recordings. And so it really helps with people who might prefer to sit down at, they're all done on East Coast times. And so we rotate between noon and 8 p.m. Eastern. And so maybe you're somebody who's putting the kids to bed at 8. And so you just want to sit with a glass of wine and your meal plan at 9:30. And so you watch last week's and you just catch up. And so I have people who watch the replays and then email me their questions. And then I do answer their questions and they watch it when they watch it.
So you can email, you can do something into the chat, or you can email ahead of time and you will handle the question.
Yep. During the hot seat time, during that central hot seat time. I mean, it's like group and individualized coaching all in one. It's really amazing. I just love it. It's one of my favorite things to teach.
Well, my listeners can't see your face, but you're lit up, and I can see how excited you are by this program, and it sounds incredible. And I'm just going to make sure I say the name of it again. It's the Meal Plan Accountability Club, and you can find out about it on vegginspired.com. And Kathy A. Davis, you've also got something brand new. What the heck? What the heck? Tell me everything. What just dropped this week?
Just dropped this week, the Kathy A. Davis Show, which is really designed to bring inspiration and education to all of us as we go through our own professional growth journeys, right? I feel like between going vegan and moving into an RV and going whole food plant-based and writing 3 cookbooks and like living the life of my dreams, I have so much to say. And so I'm bringing that to the world in my new podcast, The Kathy A. Davis Show.
The Kathy A. Davis Show, probably a weekly?
Weekly.
Okay, so we're going to be looking for that on our favorite podcast player platform. And when you talk about all the things that are available, I didn't know you before you were vegan, but I will say you seem to me another example of how going vegan in so many people just opens them up to so much. I think if you can go vegan in a non-vegan world, there's something that just happens. We just go, what the heck else could I do?
Yeah, going vegan was such a, it's interesting because I didn't really understand the depth of change that it required. Because in the moment I was so caught up in it. And I probably won't articulate this as well as I would like to, but like when my vegan story, my husband introduced us to eating more plant-based or whole food plant-based because he read 2 contradictory articles in a magazine that didn't equal up. He's like, I think we need to try this plant-based thing. And every part of my body was like, no, I'm not vegan. Like, I'm not vegan. I'm a meat eater. I eat animals. I love burgers and chicken wings and all those things, which is so weird to say 10 years later. But what I've grown to realize is that it's an identity. Being a standard American eater was my identity. A burger eater, a meat eater. My dad was a hunter. Like, I grew up in a very different world, like different environment than I have now. And it's rooted in our identity. And so if we don't accept or if we don't change the way we think about ourselves, our habits can't change. And that's what happens when you go vegan. You start to identify as a vegan. You start to own this concept of being someone who does not eat animals anymore or use them or watch them in entertainment or wear them or any of, and you start to, it shifts your behavior because it shifts who you are at the core. So then I still vegan, right? Like I still am ethically vegan, but now I eat more of a whole food plant-based, I follow more of a whole food plant-based way of eating. And to change that core identity, I had to let go of the identity that ate processed vegan food and embrace the identity that eats whole foods. And so it's just like those of you that are listening that might be like, I'm not a meal planner. Okay. Do you want to be? Because if you do, how can you shift your identity to be a meal planner? Right. And I've always lived with this much excitement. Always. I mean, I'm a school teacher. I was a cheerleader. I mean, it just exudes out of me. If I'm doing something that I love, it's just everybody knows it. But going vegan allowed me to shine that light differently. And that's really what it did. It was even more of this rooted kind of identity of this compassion to animals and this such an empowering change in your life that really, like, the sky's the limit of the things that you can change if you can make this type of a shift.
I totally agree with you. And I think why we don't sometimes see it at the beginning is we are very busy problem solving. We're very busy going, okay, now what do I eat? What do I say? who do I talk to? How do I explain myself? What do I order? We're busy with a lot of like little housekeeping details that take a couple years to kind of start feeling natural. And then I think when you've done that, and I agree, you turn into somebody a little bit different. Everybody's different, but then you've got that energy to like, what's next? So I guess right now we know what's immediately next. It's the Kathy A. Davis Show on your favorite platform of podcasts. I can't wait to listen to it. I didn't know about it before we started talking, so I'm so excited.
The surprise.
Yeah. So everybody's going to go to veginspired.com. They're going to look for the Kathy A. Davis Show on podcasting, and when they're going to keep their eyes open for the Meal Plan Accountability Club, and we're going to have all the links in the show notes. Kathy, thank you so much for coming back to Vedge Your Best. You're the first person to come back for a second appearance.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. I feel so honored and just love this. But I also want to give your guests a freebie.
Oh, tell us everything.
So I have a meal plan template. It's just the 7-day template. You can put the dates at the top however you want. And you can find that at veginspired.com/meal plan template. veginspired.com/meal plan template. It's a simple template. You can print it out. It has the breakfast, lunch, and dinner Monday through, 7 days a week. It also has a couple other boxes on there. So if you're listening to this, you might want to look that it's this many minutes into the show where you can add your grocery list, which I didn't even talk about how meal planning makes your groceries much more streamlined. It also has that space for those ideas. So if this is something you can print off and maybe stick in your calendar, if you still use a digital or a paper calendar, or on a clipboard, or on your refrigerator, or next to the couch where you sit and read, or in a book, then you can just jot down those ideas. Oh yeah, I want to make these tacos from so-and-so's Instagram. I love tacos, so it's always my first reference. I want to make this pasta from this cookbook. I want to make the burrito bowls that are similar to the ones from Chipotle, right? Like you just jot those ideas down. And then when you sit down to meal plan, you've got that space that you've already started to look for those go-tos that we talked about earlier. So you can find that template at veginspired.com/meal plan template.
Unbelievable. Thank you, Kathy. What an energy bomb. That's fabulous. Okay, everybody, you know exactly what to do. And if you can't remember, if you're just stunned, go look at the show notes. It'll all be there. Thank you, Kathy A. Davis.
Thanks, Michelle. Bye, everybody.
So, what did you think of Kathy Davis? Kathy is such a great communicator, such a great speaker, such a clear speaker. We don't need to cut things out. After I listened to this episode, I wanted to have Charlie spend an extra hour or so cutting out all the random things that I said. But Charlie's a busy man these days, so you're going to get the episode more or less exactly as it went down. In the episode notes, you're going to see the links to the free meal planning template that Kathy has for us, links to her excellent cookbooks, and Kathy's monthly membership, the Meal Planning Accountability Club. And you'll also see a link to Kathy's newest adventure, the Kathy A. Davis Show. I've said it before, there are never enough vegan podcasts. So listen. Okay, my Vedge Your Besties. 2024 is a year filled with new goals and challenges. Not just for me, but also for my 2 veteran team members who've been with me since the beginning. Producer Charlie, working on his music a lot this year, and Nancy, my virtual assistant, is growing in her plant-based education. I'm really hoping that we can prevail upon them to share some of their undertakings this year so we can all cheer them on. And if you know someone who could use a weekly dose of vegan and plant-based encouragement, please share the podcast. Please share Vedge Your Best on Instagram. And for all of you asking about the Vegan Women's Summit and my application to be a speaker, the voting is finished. I will let you know as soon as I find out over on Instagram, because the podcast typically gets produced a week or two ahead of time. So there may be news, not sure, there may be. And thank you so much to everyone who voted for me or sent me a nice message of encouragement, no matter what happens. I'm so overwhelmed by your support. Okay, what are you going to make happen and put yourself out for this week? Let us know. Let us know so we can all be your cheering squad. We need you. So please, veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.